national championship bound, Steven. We did it. We did it. And by we, I meant they. But I feel like it's us.
What a ride.
Unreal. 2 back-to-back overtime games. Just the stress, the panic, they talk about how loud the stadium is. How quiet did the stadium get during that overtime when we were on offense? Like, it was silent in there. So quiet.
Yeah, I can't do much more of this. Like I love this run that we're on, but I'm ready for the year to be done because those are 2 overtime games in a row it's too much.
And now we have to wait 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This waiting game.
Which is good.
So
luckily I still have a job too. So since NDSU lost.
That's right. Our producer, NDSU grad.
Yeah.
We're deciding what we're gonna do with him. Probably giving him some grace since we won.
I'm just glad that other teams have finally caught up to NDSU to make it interesting. So
wow.
What a jerk.
So if you're looking for a job in Missoula, we got an opening at the Missoula podcast. We're looking for a new producer. Only requirements are you wear maroon.
Yep. That's easy.
It's an easy job.
It's an easy job. I don't know how we let him sneak in here.
Did you hire him?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
But anyway, another episode. Steven, what do we have this week on the podcast?
One of the longest tenured businesses in Missoula, employing over 100 people and multiple generations. We have Jordan Watkins, who is a part of Zip Beverage.
She was awesome.
She was awesome. Discovery Care Centers. But what's so awesome about this story is this is like a family unit that spans over decades of building and growing. And there's just a really cool culture and story. And we learned so much that we had no idea. I mean, she was just a wealth of knowledge and a surprise on some very special sauce that she brings back to your memory, which it was a really fun episode. Jordan was amazing. And we're just jacked for you to hear a little bit about the Zip Beverage story. All right, Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. First things first. What's your favorite beer?
Oh, God. There's so many to choose from. I like Michelob Ultra.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Low calories or the taste?
It's both, but it's, low in alcohol volume too. That one would probably definitely be my favorite. I'm not a huge drinker. I do have to be real honest about that.
It's probably for the best.
And it is for the best, but it's just, I kind of got some health reasons why I can't drink so much. Alcohol sits better with me than, I don't drink caffeine either. Caffeine doesn't sit well with my system. So I'm very, very careful about ingesting stimulants.
So what's your favorite beverage? What's your drink of choice?
We just got a new one in. It's Prime. Is my favorite. Prime is really good.
It's blown up.
It's blown up huge. Is it McGregor, the UFC fighter, is behind it?
Okay.
It's got a great taste, and I really like it.
My kids love it.
Yeah.
It's like the go-to road trip. They grab a Prime.
Isn't it just like chock full of sugar?
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. Okay.
It's coconut water, and then it's got all these flavors and
what
stuff.
What do I know?
Tons of flavors.
It's like a healthier alternative to like the energy drinks.
Yeah, and they do have an energy drink too. So they have Prime Energy and then Prime Hydration. And so that's kind of the new thing in the industry is you have your hydration drinks and you have your energy drinks. And the thing with Prime that's been really kind of interesting here in most recent history is we haven't been able to get it for a while because once the UFC fighter got behind it, everybody wanted it. And then the supply chain got backed up. And so now we're just finally getting product and it's finally hitting the shelves. And it's crazy because I'm like, I want this. This is so good. And then we just didn't have it all summer.
Okay. Well, for our audience wondering why we started out talking about and asking questions about beverages, Jordan, tell us a little bit about what you do and your involvement and why beverages are important to you.
Yeah. So beverages are important to me because my family owns Zip Beverage. We are, the Watkins family is a 4th generation beer wholesaler business. So where the history comes into is my great-grandfather, Harry Watkins Sr., he lived in Sweetgrass, Montana, over by Havre.
Yep.
He was a bootlegger.
No way.
Yeah. And so when Prohibition started, well, even before Prohibition started, he owned a mechanic shop. Prohibition came around, and then he got into the bootlegging business to try and make a living for his family.
Sure.
And so he was shuttling whiskey from Canada into the U.S. for distribution. And there's a whole bunch of crazy stories that
Oh,
I
I
have of
can't.
him getting gunned down, having to hide in the basement of the shop, while he healed from bullet wounds and all that. To my knowledge, he never got caught by law enforcement and stuff, but that really catapulted his involvement
Amazing.
into distribution. So then when Prohibition ended, they purchased a beer distribution warehouse or started a business in Sweetgrass and then ultimately moved that to Havre. And so Havre Distributors is going to be the one, that's going to sound really familiar to people. And that is still in the family to this day.
No way.
It was started by a different family before they purchased it. And I want to say they purchased it in like the late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
Probably early 40s. Distributing Anheuser-Busch, Schlitz, Great Falls Select, kind of those really popular beers for the time. Highlander might have been one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then as time moved on, my grandpa had 7 siblings. 4 of them are in the beer business, and their descendants are still into the beer business to this day. Most of them were born either blind or very hard seeing. So most of them went to school in Great Falls at the School for the Deaf and Blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
crazy.
So while they were all growing up, they all grew up really poor, really famished, really, really just had really hard times. And so their dad really did everything that they could to try and carve a family for all their kids and stuff. He ended up dying young in his 50s. And so then my grandpa at 19, 20 years old had to step in and start running the business because he was the oldest
and
sibling.
that was just in Havre at that time?
And this is just in Havre at this time. He was the oldest sibling that had the best eyesight. So while their mom helped care for all his siblings, shuttling them to Great Falls for school and stuff, he went to work. He went, did a stint in the army for the Korean War, and then came back and then brought his brother Ted in as a partner running Havre. And then they ultimately kind of started branching out into the entire state, purchasing beer distributorships all over the place. And so that's how they acquired Zip. They still have Havre. And then his brother's name was Ted Watkins. And so Ted was partners into Zip also. He went on to buy a distributorship in Spokane. I don't know the name of that one, unfortunately. But the other ones that his side of the family is really known for is Watkins Distributing in southern Idaho. So they have an office in Twin, Idaho Falls, and then they purchased Coeur d'Alene, I want to say in the early 2010s. So they have all of Idaho but the Boise market.
Whoa.
How
do you get into the Boise market?
They sell. I
see. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And so then, Bunce, he had Havre distributorships, which the Myers family. So my aunt, Karen and Ken Myers, their family runs that still. We have Zip with my dad. And then moving into the other distributorships. So Watkins Distributing they purchased Flathead Beverage last year up in Kalispell. M&C, I want to say a couple years ago in Miles City. So they now have territory in Montana.
Wow.
And then Bruce Watkins, the youngest sibling of the 7, he's kind of his family's the oddball because they have the Miller Coors distributorship in Great Falls, Gusto Distributing. So Gusto has offices in Great Falls, Helena, Havre, Eastern Montana, I think Glasgow, I believe. So they have the largest territory out of anybody in the state for beer.
So they're competitors.
They are technically.
So you have family that's
competitive,
but all
Do they
the same
get along?
industry.
Everybody gets along.
Everybody drinks beer. Everybody's happy.
And then the last one that I didn't mention. So my Bunce's brother Stan Watkins. That name's going to sound really familiar to you because you're going to hear the name Watkins Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
That was his business. His stepson is an investor in Eagle Beverage, also in Great Falls, Helena, Shelby. So that's kind of the whole family breakdown.
Is that what's in the back of those Watkins Shepherd trucks? It's just beer?
No,
Watkins is just...
They were just a regular transportation
They're just
company.
transportation.
So they did loads all over the country for everything.
Okay.
Anything that needed hauled. I think short haul and long hauled.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where did the name Zip come from?
That was what I was going to ask.
Well, go ahead. You ask. No, go ahead.
It's just amazing that we're on the same
Yeah,
page for
always.
the first time.
So
First time.
the name Zip Beverage came from the previous owners, the Ziparian family. So
it's a great last name.
Leonard Ziparian, it was their business. And so that's where Zip Beverage came and we never changed it.
Why would you?
So
Yeah.
Watkins Distribution, if I'm following, Watkins Distribution owns Several businesses.
Several businesses.
Yeah. How many businesses under the Watkins
Under
umbrella?
Under the umbrella, a dozen or so.
Wow.
So it's not just beer distributorships. My dad and the family at a previous time was invested in long-term care facilities.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of real estate, commercial, residential, a whole
So
bunch
Jordan,
of stuff.
what's your role?
Cook, cleaner, and bottle washer. Really at this point, I had a management role at Zip prior to I have a son, and he's 3 years old
Okay.
now. So I had a management role at Zip. I have been going down to the nursing home even prior to that with my dad, learning the role down there and stuff. And so since becoming a parent, I've really kind of stepped back, and I really kind of do a lot of things that nobody else has time for. So jobs that just need done that don't really have a really precedent timeline.
Yeah.
I do a lot of stuff for the Living Center now and just kind of help run those operations, pay the bills, talk to suppliers.
You're the glue gal.
I'm the glue gal.
You keep everything together.
Yeah.
So your brother Kyle, he's the acting CEO executive of.
He is,
Zip?
and so he works alongside our management team, and then my husband works for Zip too. And so Mike's been working for Zip since 2011. So he has a management role too. So really, they're all making decisions on a daily.
What's the
basis
size
for
of Zip
everything.
in terms of how many employees do you guys?
So both the Living Center and Zip have 100 employees each.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's huge.
That's a lot to
Yeah.
manage.
Really a lot. And the thing that's crazy about Zip is we have 2 employees that have over 40 years of service out of our current employee hold right now. 6 employees with 30 years or more of service, and 12 employees of 20 years or more of service. So we have a really phenomenal track record of longstanding employees that work for Zip. I don't think you're going to find that anywhere else in
That's
Missoula
phenomenal.
with, 15, 18% of your employment.
What's
Being-
That's
Yeah.
20 of your employees have been there over 20 years.
Yeah.
why do you think they've been there so long?
I think because we treat our employees really good. They're really passionate about the brands that we carry. They're passionate about our retailers. I think that's honestly why we've had outstanding longevity over the last several years. And so the employees that have been here over 30 years or more, they've worked under 3 generations of Watkins.
Right.
Bunce, my dad, Bill, and then now Kyle and I. And
Wow.
that's just incredible to think about.
That's wild. So the business starts, you guys are outlaws,
Yeah.
or at least your great grandpa
Yeah.
was. What do you think about the Watkins maybe personality, or your grandpa and dad, where you guys had this desire to expand and this ambition? I mean,
Yeah.
is that basically what it is? Why did they want to keep growing and getting into new markets?
I think with starting with Bunce, he really took advantage of what I would call the Industrial Revolution, where it was really easy to, I guess I shouldn't really say easy, but it made sense for that time period to buy businesses, operate them very well, and then make a bunch of money and then move on and then rinse and
Sure.
repeat through that whole process. And, kind of at a time, unlike now, businesses were a lot more affordable to buy and stuff. And so it snowballed. But with great triumphs came some really, big sacrifices too. And so, I mean, they made some calls that weren't money makers either.
Sure.
Bad investment deals and stuff in real estate and stuff. And so, everybody was able to pull through with all that, which is great. But they really knew how to work the times to their advantage.
Jordan, you mentioned having Prime as a drink and then also all the beers, but what other beverages does Zips distribute?
So the biggest one that we have is the Anheuser-Busch portfolio, which, is Bud Light, Natural, Busch. And then they have craft beers underneath them too. Imports, Stella, Elysian, 10 Barrel. Those are kind of the really big popular ones. Ones that are non-Anheuser-Busch brands are going to be Heineken is one that we also carry. Pabst Blue Ribbon, which is really unusual for an Anheuser-Busch wholesaler to carry Pabst because that's a Miller Coors product, or at least it was. They are separating from Miller Coors now. So they're going to be kind of independent moving forward. Rainier is another one.
Isn't Pabst like the Missoula beer?
Pabst is the Missoula beer. So I don't know if I have this fact 100%, but it kind of made the internet sensation like in the 2010s. Orange Street Food Farm it was top 10 for sure for PBR volume for the entire country. It might even have been top 5, but I know it was top 10 for sure.
Whoa.
Huge. Their Pabst volume at one point was just like unreal. So unreal.
Yeah, it just feels like people that are outdoorsy are drinking Pabst Blue
Yeah.
Ribbon, and Missoula is pretty outdoorsy.
Or if you got a kickball tournament coming up, you know, it's
Yeah.
all Pabst.
Pabst.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It is so incredible.
So-
Missoula's a big craft market too. It's been a craft horse for about 10 years, and really here, just like post COVID, has the craft market kind of softened a little bit. And I don't know if it's just because people are kind of more gravitating back towards domestics again for health reasons, alcohol volume, caloric intake, but we've seen a little bit of a soften in our craft market. And so getting back into more brands, what else do we carry? Well, we have Big Sky, we have Highlander. Those are, of course, two of Missoula's most
Any other
prominent.
drinks that are non-alcoholic outside of Prime?
Lots.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we have a whole portfolio of non-alcoholic beers. So Prime, Liquid Ice, energy drink, Zions energy drink. We just picked up a new one called Revitalite, which is basically an adult version of Pedialyte. It's in the same bottle and everything.
So when you drink too much of your Bud Lights,
You
the
can
night
have
before,
your Revitalite to recover from it. That stuff's really good. That's a new one that we've just inherited and stuff. And then Calypso, Nestle. We have Nestle's drinks. Talking Rain. I already said Liquid Ice. Cascade Ice. We have tons. Good to Grow for kids drinks. Those are the ones with the little characters on the top. We just picked up a new tea. I'm just trying to think of what
Just fascinating.
Awesome.
This
Hey,
is
yeah,
just so
yeah,
many a
I
year.
mean, just so many.
What
brands.
what do you love most about what you guys do? Like the business of distribution of beverages.
And for me, it's the personal interaction with the customers and the retailers. We service both on premise, which is like your bars and your restaurants that serve beer on draft, and then off premise is all of our stores, grocery and convenience stores.
And do you have like sales reps?
We have tons
okay.
that all service accounts, and so
Stephen, they have over 100
we
employees.
have
Yeah.
100 employees.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know if they were all drivers.
yeah, no, or just like in store
back
stocking.
end,
Yeah.
stocking.
we have a whole wide employee base of management, salesmen, drivers, merchandisers,
But
draft cleaners.
Do you lose a contract? Because I mean, it seems like every
Happens.
convenience store, every grocery store is going to sell your products.
Yep.
So once you have that contract in place, I would assume
So
it's there indefinitely.
it's a weird industry. We don't have contracts per se for our beer. So the beer can float in and out of all these grocery stores and bars and stuff as it pleases. Non-alcoholics, on the other hand, you buy the space, or I shouldn't say we buy the space. The vendor or the
brand.
The brand buys the space.
okay.
And so competitiveness in your convenience store stuff is a real thing in this industry.
Interesting.
And so you're always fighting for space, and retailers will shut their shelves twice a year to kind of adjust for, what products are popular and stuff. Some of that comes down corporate authorizations like your Albertsons and your Walmarts, and even in the bars for like these corporate restaurants like Old Chicago is kind of a good example.
Sure.
They set, what they want on tap and all that stuff, and we just follow suit. And you can kind of change some stuff, but for the most part, it just is what it is. But your independent retailers are the ones where you have the most flexibility to kind of, set the shelves accordingly.
Yeah.
But of course, we're working with Summit, we're working with George's, we're working with Hayden Beverage too, to try and get all of our brands, to have the best space possible. And the retailer, of course, too, because, they have the final say for the independents when it comes down to it.
One question for you, and then we're going to get into our rapid fire questions. But with your, 200 plus employees, obviously you got tenure. Is there, when you guys hire new employees, how do you onboard? How do you train, teach culture where they have buy-in to this multi-generational company and have total buy-in to just keep that dream alive?
Yeah, that's a great question. You hire somebody and we just try our best to honestly make sure that they're a great fit. And you don't really know if you're going to be a good fit until you start working and figuring out, this is what I want to do. We've really taken a lot of pride of hiring employees and then moving them up through the food chain. So kind of like I mentioned earlier with all this longevity, everybody started as merchandisers, as drivers, and they all worked up from there, which is just incredible. And so, as they've done their time and stuff, they've been rewarded with management positions and oversight. And even like our general manager, he's been at Zip, kind of at that 30-year mark. And started as a truck washer and then merchandiser,
Wow.
and went through college while he worked for us, and then he was a salesman for years. And so
So they have a growth plan that they can.
there's a huge growth plan, and that's how we
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, we've also been really successful at hiring family members. So the dad's a salesman, but then the son's a driver. Or we have a husband and wife team that work for us. The husband is our warehouse manager for our night crew and our day pickers and stuff. And she does my old role. The sales execution coordinator is what it was called. It was a role that Anheuser-Busch wanted for wholesalers that were over a certain amount of cases. And so she moved into that role then when I kind of stepped back, to kind of stay at home and raise my kiddo and stuff.
Let's get back to your story in just a
Yep.
second, but we got a rapid fire.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. What's your earliest memory of Missoula? And you were born and raised here?
Born and raised, went to Big Sky, graduated in 2010, went to the University of Montana, got a business degree, graduated in 15, started working for Zip right at when I was a senior in high school, like that fall. So yeah, I have been here my entire life.
Have you had any other jobs other than Zip? Or
I
have
worked
you
at Quality Supply for 6 months.
Okay.
And then my dad, once I was working in the clothing department because a really good friend of mine, I showed horses as a kid, and I'm a really big horse person and still am today. And she was like, come work for Quality Supply. It would just be great. So I did. And then December, right before Christmas, my dad's like, we need a part-time person in our sign department. Come work with us. Let's just get you into the business and let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So I did that while I was going through college for 5 years. I did all of our signs, point of sale, all the pricing for Town Pump, the stickers.
Big job.
It was a big job, and I loved it. It was so much fun.
That's incredible.
So my earliest memory
Earliest memory.
of Missoula, a couple of them, having breakfast with my dad and my brother when we were kids at Stockman's Bar. When they served food, right?
That's a good dad right there.
We go there, and then we go to that. I don't even know what it is or what the bar used to be called. It's right across from Five Guys. It's a Diamond Jim's now. What was it before that? I can't remember. We'd sit there too all the time. He'd make his calls and just go there. So being chucked inside a dumpster at the fairgrounds at the beer gardens when they were stocking it in the morning, so we could crush the cardboard. Little kids.
Yeah.
Going to another family business, 93 Stop and Go.
Yeah, that was a family business.
That was the family business. So my Bunce's brother, Gwen, and Kay Watkins, that was their business.
Oh, I miss it.
Duper sauce.
I miss it.
I
Telling you.
I don't know what it is.
We've
How do you
debated.
not know?
93 Stop and Go?
Yeah,
It was Florence Coffee
it's Florence Coffee now.
on Brooks in front of Tremper's. That like
Okay.
triangle. It was just a small drive-through, but had hands down the best fries Missoula's ever had
Duper sauce.
with duper sauce. And they had like a burger
Pizza burger.
that had ham on it. I don't remember what it was called.
I don't know either.
But like, childhood, like it was the saddest day when that.
That's nostalgia.
And
right there.
Yes.
everybody all the time on the internet, who has the duper sauce recipe?
Wait,
I have the duper sauce
do
recipe.
you have it?
I do.
Really?
I own the trademark for the duper sauce recipe now.
Oh,
So if you want to debunk some duper sauce myths, let's break the internet.
yeah. Wow. Hey, once we go off air here, there's going to be some high-end negotiating going on behind the scenes. We've got to get that duper sauce.
The duper sauce.
Amazing. Jordan, you mentioned earlier you don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
But we always ask, what's your favorite coffee shop?
I still go through the coffee shop all the time because my kiddo likes Italian sodas.
Okay.
So we go to Luz Kabooska's just right down the road.
Nice.
I wish I had a favorite coffee stand because of coffee reasons, but I just
Well, do you have
don't.
a favorite restaurant?
I do. You're going to get a pretty subjective answer from me just because I really firmly believe in supporting our customers that really support us. So if it's a nice restaurant, I got to say either the Depot or Montana Club for sure. They're pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
I really appreciate Ed's genuineness and
Yeah.
how he comes over and greets people every
He's a
time
good
we're
guy.
eating
Yeah,
there.
that's great.
That is just incredible.
Yeah. Bob and Nick are great.
Yep, they're
Bob's
great.
in there often. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Casual food, CJ's Den probably in Stevensville is pretty hard to beat
That
too.
is good.
Yeah, I love it.
Does John still own that?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Veracruzans, I love
Yeah.
them.
Used to referee
Great-
basketball
great
with
fa-
him. He's a
great
great
family.
guy.
Yep. Another Haver family.
Oh,
Nice.
okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Jordan, what zip code do you live in?
59808.
Okay.
It's not bad.
It's all right. It's not
Yeah.
59803.
Yeah, or 4, but it's pretty good. Pretty good. We're okay with it.
Yeah, good.
What's-
I'm right on the border of 04, like right on the border.
Okay.
So
we're close.
We're close.
Border war. Let's see. As I forget the next question. Missoula, you've been here your whole life, so you might not even know this, but it's a weird place to live.
Yep.
Okay. What's the weirdest thing about Missoula to you?
Well, I want to say the people just like everybody else, but I have a story.
Okay.
Yo,
One thing that's weird.
I'm still stuck on the duper sauce 93 stop and go. Like, my day is made. You have no idea, Steven.
So much negotiations
That's
for
before
that
my
duper
time.
sauce.
Before my time.
Oh my God. So we have an account. We did. I had to clarify this before I came in to talk to you guys. That used to pay their entire bill in cash, which is fine, but it was all 1s and 5s, like the lowest denomination possible. So they'd always hand our salesman like a stack this big, and you have to count it all. Large. That's weird.
That's really weird.
That's so weird.
No questions asked. We'll just take the cash.
Yep, take the cash.
Crazy.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you love most about Missoula?
I'm a big outdoors person, big horse person. It's easy to get out into the woods and find solitude. Like, I think you could be anywhere in Missoula and find it within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere. Kind of a secret of Missoula, we have a great horse community here in the equestrian park, which I would kind of call is like municipal owned. I think it's owned under its own association or nonprofit, but I mean, there's nowhere else in the state that has like a community owned equestrian facility.
Mm-hmm.
That is just incredible.
I love that.
They're all
I run
private.
out there,
Yeah.
but I love it. It's so nice to have here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Do those with horses frown at people running through there? Do you hate people like Steven?
I mostly just hate the dogs.
Okay.
Yeah. Me, I'm
It's
with
the
you.
dogs
there.
that,
Don't get me started. on
and
the
I mean, when you have
dogs.
a dog that runs at a horse, I mean, that's a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
But you know, really the people and stuff, it's good for them. It's good for
It's a
their
great trail.
minds. It's fine.
It's a
with
great
me.
trail.
Can I get one just rant real quick and then we'll get back to this?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if this is okay, but I'm going to talk to all Missoula people right now. When you're out with your dog, don't assume that runners like your dog as much as you do, or
Seriously.
horse people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be mean, and I know I'm going to get some hate mail for this, but I don't want to pet your dog. I'm into my run, and when he jumps up on me and I forearm it away, I'm not the bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done. Is that okay if I said that, Brandon?
I'm with you.
Okay.
We agree on two things now. We're on the same page twice.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I had to get that in.
No, you're good.
Last thing. What is your favorite book or the book that's impacted your life the most?
Oh, hands down. It's called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LaPera. It is life-changing. Everybody has to read that book.
What did it do for you?
So what the book did for me is, so her book, she has 3 books out now. One of them just got released last week. I can't wait to read it. It's called How to Be the Love You Seek. The first book that she wrote is called How to Do the Work. And it's a book on recognizing, what am I trying to say here? Manifestation for self-healing, creating a more vibrant and joyful life. And so kind of how this really plays into me is, I kind of discovered at a young age, you know, especially going through college right before like pre-COVID, that I was a chronic people pleaser in a really unhealthy way, meaning that if somebody didn't like me and I knew that, I would just bend over backwards and do whatever they wanted me to do just in hopes that they would just like me. And that was hard in the workplace, you know, especially because when you work with so many people, sometimes you just can't like everybody and they don't like you. And rather than just accept that, it was just, I'm just going to try harder. I'm just going to try harder. If they email me a request that I have to do, I'm just going to make it my first priority and forget everything else. Well, you do that for a long enough period of time and you just feel unhappy and icky and gross. And so kind of leading up to COVID, I was just not happy with what I was doing at work just for, you know, those very reasons. I didn't know how to break that cycle. And I was curious about it, but wasn't sure really how to approach that. And so I was scrolling through Facebook one day, just mindless scrolling. And her post popped up because she's really big at social media and she always posts like daily affirmations and stuff. And I read that and I don't even remember what the post said, but I was like, wow, that is totally me. Well, let me check out and see who this person is. And then all of a sudden one thing led to another. And I'm just like mindlessly scrolling through her stuff going, well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. Well, that applies to my life. And so then I started doing more research and then found out she's an author. and I ordered her book right away. And so what it taught me was, helping me recognize adverse experiences and trauma in our childhood and how it affects us as adults. Meaning, if you are around people in general that are just, you know, patterns of codependency, emotional immature people, even people that are like the life of the party, but you're around those people, and they instill patterns that carry you into adulthood, and they may not serve you today, but they may have served you previously. And how that kind of relates to even in the business world is reactivity. You know, working in the family business, it's so easy when you're having a conversation with my dad or my brother or any of those things that business becomes personal,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no way to escape it. It's so personal because you're a family, and you're having all these work discussions at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, on the weekends.
Well, I was just going to ask you,
at the lake.
How does your family manage that when, Thanksgiving was just a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
How do you guys talk business at family dinners, or are you guys really good at keeping the two separate?
No, we're terrible about keeping the
No
two
boundaries.
separated. No boundaries.
Yeah.
But boundaries are important. And I
Yeah.
had no boundaries at one point, because it just was never something that was healthy modeled for me. And not saying that that's a bad thing, because people can't teach you things that they don't know themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to find that for yourself. And I had to find how to set healthy boundaries with people, how when somebody was being just emotionally yucky, we all know those people that when you're around them and you can only be around them for a short amount of time because they're just yucky.
How has working with family been for you?
It's been good. It's been really challenging at times.
Yeah. Who's the hardest for you to work with?
Oh God.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. He's just trying to fire start. Don't do it.
I don't mind saying it. I really don't.
Okay.
I want to say it's probably my husband at times.
Of course it is.
And the only
I
reason
guess.
and the only reason why I say that is because you have to go home at night
Hey, you take it with you.
and you take it with you.
Yeah.
And that is so hard. The boundaries are so important to learn, because it's fine to have business conversations at home, but the minute you're indifferent about something, that's where it gets really tricky.
Yeah.
And so when him and I were both in management roles, I was doing my sales execution coordinator stuff, and he was our lead driver relief. I'm managing salesmen and their expectations and all their pay and stuff, and he's covering routes for these salesmen. That got hard, really hard at one point. So really taking a step back and really more so focusing on the nursing home has been really good, because it's kind of created more distance in the job.
What do you just tell your husband? Hey, my family's last name's on the sign out front. You're gonna listen to me?
No.
That doesn't go home well, does it?
No. And Mike, he's a really, really, really good manager and a really good employee.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really been an asset to Zip Beverage. So much so that the role that he has is just incomparable.
That's awesome that you guys
I
handle
mean-
it well. Because you hear the horror stories all the time about how business just rips families apart and
does.
poor relationships with parents and
Yeah.
siblings, and so that's really cool that you and Kyle can work together and you'll still go to your dad for advice and
Yeah.
learn from him, and then your husband like that. That's impressive.
It's really impressive. And really, I mean, I think a lot of it works out so well because we've gotten really good at having healthy boundaries, and, knowing that, just because we have dinner on a Tuesday night for fun doesn't mean we have to talk about work. And same thing at home. I don't have to talk about work all the time, and neither does Mike, but, let's talk about our hobbies. Let's, we hunt and do the horses and stuff. And so we always are kind of finding things, that stray away from work. But it's also nice because at the same time, when either of us have a personal issue or a bad day, it's really easy to provide comfort to, that, hey, sorry, that just didn't work out today.
We're kind of in it. You're in it together.
Yeah, you're
Exactly.
definitely in it together. And so that's really worked out really good. And so, my dad, as he's, getting close to retirement, he's basically at retirement now, but he wants to stay busy. So, he can kind of do his, little thing, just staying busy. And then Kyle and Mike really run kind of the big show. And it works out really good. And we just have a wonderful management team of people, and they just all are so dedicated that
Yeah. How's your dad done with letting go?
it's been hard for him.
I'd imagine.
It's been really hard for him.
Yeah.
He got cancer in 2016 and going into 2017. And that was probably like the first, like, oh, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen to me. It won't. It's not. That's not something that happens to us. And when it finally hits you in the face, you're like, oh God. So that was really kind of the time period that you really kind of had to step up and be like, okay, he's got managers. And my dad was really adamant at that time period to be like, I don't want anybody to know. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want them to know I'm sick. I'm going to go as long as I can without them finding out that I'm sick. Well, Dad, but you can't do that because they are relying on you to make decisions. We have to tell them. Well, just not yet. Let's just see how it goes. And so his cancer treatment was really intense for a very short amount of time. And so he had to do radiation once a day for, I want to say it was 10 weeks, and then chemo once a week. And so, the first couple weeks were kind of okay. You couldn't really quite tell that he was getting sick. And then by the third week, it was, you knew. And then the fourth week was really bad. And then they're, heading towards the end, it was just so hard. And he was just so sick. And that was tough. And so, then he recovered from cancer. And then, of course, it took him a good couple of years to kind of like come out of it in a way and rebound. But he never did really rebound 100% either. And then here, before we had all the COVID lockdown stuff, he gets sick again, not with cancer, but with something else, another type of disease and stuff. And so that one, I think it was kind of a trade-off of which one hit him harder. And so, we're trying to take care of him and make sure he's good. And then you have these 3 big companies at the time that you're trying to run and trying to manage. And that's where it got really hard with Discovery was, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
And he's had great managers at all these companies for a lot of years, but for some reason that was just kind of the hang up was Discovery in Hamilton. And so we had a really tough conversation one day about, Dad, have you ever thought about selling Discovery? Well, why would I do that? We're a buy, hold, and operate family. Dad, you can't manage it anymore. This is getting really hard. I don't want to do that yet. It's just not even in the discussion. Well, another couple weeks goes by. Dad, are you sure you really don't want to sell this? Here's your financials. Here's this, here's that. This is why I think this makes sense. Well, I'm just not ready to entertain that conversation. And that was a really big sticking point for both him and I, because it caused a lot of friction at that point, since I really took over the management of those nursing homes, while he was kind of sick, and then stepped out and then stepped back in, after I had my child. And so, yeah. And so every couple of weeks it was just, have you thought about it? Have you called Ron Bender, since he had, somebody approach you years ago with wanting to sell that place, and he'd always keep it in mind. Well, maybe I'll call him and just see what they say. Put him in contact with the buyers. So he did. And then it's, well, yeah, I guess, that we're going to try to come to terms on an offer. I don't like the offer now. It's too low. So then we get through fall and into Christmas and then into the new year again. And then I was, Dad, I think you should really take that offer. I really think you should. So then he did. And then they had a closing date scheduled for September that then got pushed to November 1st of 2021. And then we got it sold.
Yes.
And we're down one company. It just made everything so much easier to manage. Oh my God.
I'm sorry you guys had to deal with all that, and I can't imagine, the impact your dad getting sick and those diseases made on your family and the team, and just the stress.
But it's that same personality that made him such a great business owner, right?
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is he's stubborn and probably
he's so stubborn.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're trying to care for him and he's trying to, keep the business going. Well, Jordan, as we're closing up, I just wanted to say thank you, to your family for providing so much opportunity for so many Missoulians over the generations now. And
doing it legally.
Legally now.
Yeah, you guys, hopefully, we don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding, legally. But yeah, just incredible the impact that your family has had in this community for so many families. And obviously you guys are doing a good job because so many people want to stay there.
Yeah.
I love your products, big beer
I'm
guy
glad.
myself. So yeah. And your story is just amazing. And it must be so challenging and enjoyable to be in the family business.
It's great. I really enjoy it a lot. And I really appreciate, I have so much appreciation, not only for Bunce, he has always instilled that family is so important. And he's always instilled that, my kids and my my predecessors are going to take over all these family businesses. And, really him and all of his siblings, they built an empire, and they have just been so giving about making sure that everybody, just takes the reins over and just runs it successfully, that I'm full of so much gratitude because of that. And my dad too, because you hear of so many family businesses too that just kind of don't make it, or they're not successful, or they maybe don't want to pass it on to their kids because they want them to carve their own path. And really, for him, from day one, being so invested with, my kids are going to, take this over and hopefully have it be successful. That is just so incredible and so very blessed. Really appreciate that.
Jordan, looking ahead to the future, is there anything big, new, exciting coming along for Zip?
Yeah. So the most exciting things that are going to happen for Zip, kind of on like a 10-year plan, is we bought the old Watkins Shepherd property out there on Broadway to ultimately build our new warehouse on. So there is going to be growth and expansion there for that business. We're not going to build a building yet. It'll probably be, 7 to 10 years down the road, but we got it bought. We're going to remodel the existing offices out there so then we can get them rented out and stuff. Kyle, once he graduated from college, he went through, it's called the successor management program with Zip, or with Anheuser-Busch, sorry. And so he went through all their steps to be able to own a franchise for Anheuser-Busch. Mike is next. So Mike submitted his paperwork. He has got his plan, and it's about a 5 to 7 year plan.
Wow.
He's anticipating to get it done in 3, just because he's already had all that experience from, working through the ranks and stuff. So they're really excited about that because they don't get that very often. I'll be next at some point. So, when he gets done in 3 years, then I'll probably start that process. And, we just want to buy, hold, and, operate it and just take care of our customers, take care of our retailers, and do a good job at that. We just really pride ourselves on, being active owners. If we have to night load, we'll night load. If we got to sell a route, we'll sell a route. And we're just really proud about that.
Well, that's awesome. I applaud you guys and all you do for the community and the families you guys are impacting. I mean, 200 employees who their livelihood is dependent on you and your family. That's impressive.
Sounds like the empire's in good hands.
Yeah.
So.
I would love to hope that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you for being on the Missoula podcast. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.